Hi everybody. I'm gonna probably try to make this short today. It's Friday instead of the usual Wednesday live that I do, and it's been kind of a hectic week. You know, we've had the coronavirus thing, and I just learned today that my daughter's school has been canceled for next week, and then they're supposed to be off for spring break. So that's added an extra bit of excitement. Anyway, I wanted to just briefly talk about something I've mentioned quite a few times this week. And sorry, I'm filming in a different place because schedules are different. But I've mentioned a few times this week that I had an eye exam today. This is my annual eye exam. And it tends to induce some anxiety in me. And normally it's the day of that it bothers me. This time, however, it started bothering me like on Sunday night or Monday, and I just couldn't quite get a handle on it. Oh, and see, my eyes, they dilated really weird today, so my right eye is really fun dilated. I can't see normally, or can't see properly right now. But so there's been a lot of anxiety for me, and I was doing a lot of mental work on this over this past week, trying to figure out why in the world this has brought up so much anxiety for me. And I finally realized a couple of days ago that it's largely because there's this trauma, I think, that exists. So, 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with IIH, and I had, for 2 weeks, I had basically just debilitating headache and full body pain, so bad that I was asking God to please take me home or stop the pain somehow. I didn't care, either one. And in that span of time, my head hurt so much that I couldn't keep my eyes open, so I didn't really think anything of it. People were telling me that I had a complicated migraine. What happened though was that I basically lost most of my vision over that span of 2 weeks. So once we finally got my diagnosis, we had a neuro-ophthalmologist who was also a surgeon who performed a surgery for me so that I could regain a lot of my vision, because he had told me when he did an assessment, he looked at me and he said, best case scenario, you are going to be able to read large print for the rest of your life. I'm an editor by trade. I've been a copy editor. I went to college to be a copy editor. I love books. I love reading, and that socked me in the stomach. And I was devastated for at least hours after that. And this was before the surgery, right? And so he tells me, he told me that. So, in addition to, I had just lost a baby. That's a miscarriage that had led to this, right? This was what had led to my IIH. And I'd been through this debilitating pain. And now I was being told, hey, we can get your pain under control with some meds and things, but you're not going to be able to read anything larger than fine print for the rest of your life. And that was hard. And so he performed the surgery, and I eventually regained a whole lot of my vision. But then, of course, I had to learn to acclimate to a new normal, because I have almost no peripheral vision left. So, like, if I'm sitting here and you see my finger like this, I can just barely see my finger. When it's like this, I can just barely see it in this field of vision. So I go to have my eyes examined at least once a year. When I was pregnant, it was at least 3 times during each pregnancy. And early on, it was every couple of months, because we had to see how stable my eyes were. And so, so an eye exam for most people, you go in, you just get to see if you need glasses, if you can see okay, right? But for me, it's become a little more stressful. An eye exam typically takes at least an hour. And we test my visual acuity. Sometimes we test me on color plates to see if I can see the differentiation in color. And we also have a visual field test, and this is the really fun part. And we also test my intraocular pressure, of course, so they numb your eye and put lights really close. But I get a visual field test, and this, I don't know, a lot of people probably haven't had these, but you sit at this machine and they cover one eye, and they flash lights of varying intensities and varying colors all over your visual field to see where you can see and where you can't. We always start with my right eye, so that's always awful because it's my right eye. I have a field of vision that's very, very, very much reduced. My left eye, it's reduced only like right in here and out here, but my periphery, like I can see my hand right here, maybe a little bit, but it's way better than this side. So there's a lot of anxiety that builds up right before this test, because I know, first of all, this machine is in a room that's very hot, no matter where it's at. It's always a hot room because it's the room full of machines, and so it's always very hot. It's very dry. You don't want to blink because you're like, I'm afraid I'm going to miss a spot. But then you have to blink, because if you don't, then everything starts to go dim because your pupil like is trying to be like, what's going on here? Like, what? I can't see anything. You're always afraid you're going to miss something. And if you push this little button every time you see a dot anywhere in your field of vision, but you can't look at the dot because then the machine gets angry at you and beep, and then you have to start things all over again. You have to, because you have to be focused on this one little dot in the back of the machine, right? And so there's just this tremendous amount of anxiety in me. Plus, just around the test alone, right? Because I'm a high achiever, right? So I don't want to miss anything, but I know that I'm going to fail. Every time I know I'm going to fail. So you get this printout when you're done. I'm not even going to go into how awful the test is, because if you've had one, and it's just as uncomfortable. It takes like 8 minutes on each side, and you have to sit in this really weird position like this, right? But when you're done, they print out your visual field and a representation of your visual field. And if it's all clear, you just see this grid of tiny little dots. And so it's basically a white circle with a tiny little grid of dots. But the less vision you have, the darker it is around there. So on this eye, it comes out, and you have the circle about this big, and about that much of it is maybe kind of whitish. The rest is basically pitch black. This one, I've got like a whole, a big spot here and a big spot here. So I asked a lot of you for prayers and healing and calm this week, and I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of you who came through and did that for me, because I felt it. Earlier in the week, because I was so stressed, I also sent Reiki to myself, because if you're advanced enough in Reiki, you can send it through time as well. And so you can send it to yourself in a position, because like I knew that I would be stressed today and I would not be able to perform Reiki on myself to calm myself down. So I could do that, in the past for now. And thank you, Christina. I love you too. And so you go through this, and every year there's this anxiety that things are gonna get worse. Like especially this time of year, allergies are already happening, so my eyes get blurry, and I'm paranoid that more of my vision is going. And living with IIH, I've basically been in remission for 10 years, almost 10 years, but the fear is always there, because my vision went away in 2 weeks, right? And all of this damage was done in basically 2 weeks' time. Now, most people, that's not what happens. But most people, your vision gets stolen away very, very, very slowly. And so slowly that you don't even notice that it's gone until there's a lot of damage. So that's the point of being kept up and having all these exams. So there's all this anxiety wrapped up in that. And before, I had just thought, when I go into one of these exams, my annual exam, there's always at least one point where I'm almost crying. If it's not during the visual field test, where I'm like, sitting there on the right side going, okay, am I going to see a dot anytime soon? Why can't I see a dot? Why haven't I seen any dots yet? Where are the freaking dots? It's on the other side where I'm like, oh, dot. Hey, there's a dot. Hey, there's a dot. Oh, shit. I was not seeing any of these dots on my other side. And it just hits home all over again, because, in everyday life, I've learned to adapt. And so I learned to not walk with people on the side of me, or if we're in a crowd, to keep people on the side of me and hold hands, so I don't run into anybody. you just get so used to it. Excuse me. So there's this, there's a lot of basically that discomfort just going into this eye exam. I'm going to cry somewhere. I have to fight not to cry. Or it's whenever I'm just trying to look at the letters up on the wall and going, I can't see that. And so I have a lot of visual obscurations too, right? And so these are little holes in my vision. So I can look straight at something and may not be able to see all of it. If it's a certain size or too far away, I can't see all of it. So if I look at letters, that line of letters up on the wall, I can't see, I'll see 4 of the letters, but not one of them. And then I move my eyes a little to the left, and then, there's the spot. There's a letter. So there's that. And then it kind of makes it seem like letters are dancing sometimes, because this visual field is so much smaller than this one, right? So, all this comes down to, there's a lot of anxiety for me. And so this week, it just seemed more than usual because it was leading up to it instead of in the exam. And so what has actually happened is I've done a lot of meditating on this, a lot of figuring out, and I finally realized there's a lot of trauma involved in this. So this is a different doctor than I've gone to. But, the essential pattern of the eye exam has been the same across the 3 or 4 neuro-ophthalmologists that I've had in the past 10 years. And so there's all of this trauma, emotionally and physically. And so, as we were on my way to the exam today, I realized it's basically a matter of perspective. I spent all this time worrying about how bad my vision may have gotten without me knowing it, or how badly I'm going to do in this exam, or how I might break down in this exam. And I spent all that time focusing on that, but instead, I would not be so worried if I were to just think about all of the things that haven't happened, all of the good things that have actually come out of these exams. So I've had an exam a year for 10 years, plus, in the early stages, probably every couple of months. And then while I was pregnant with each of my kids, at least once a trimester. So I've had a lot of these exams over the past 10 years. And every time, there's either been improvement or I've held stable. So early on, it was improvement because I ended up with 20/20 in one eye and 20/30 in another eye. Visual acuity, even though my visual field is very small. But visual acuity, 20/20, 20/30. Which was pretty darn good considering that the doctor before the surgery said, best case scenario, even after the surgery, you're going to be reading fine print. So, today, finally, because of all of this work that I've been doing, and I'm sure all of the help and prayers and calm that you've all been sending me, I was able to finally look at it and say, yes, but look at all of this that has actually been good. You've been stable for 10 years. There has been basically no change in my vision for 10 years. Now, in these past few weeks, I've noticed that my distant vision is a little off. And so glasses, I had some glasses right after my surgery 10 years ago to ease me through after the surgery when I wasn't yet at 20/20 and 20/30. And they helped a lot, and I've been using those in the past few weeks. But then, of course, that makes me worry, because, again, it's so easy to get caught up and worry with this chronic disease that you never know when it's just going to pop up, because it's idiopathic. We don't know what causes it. For me, it was a big hormone change. Well, I'm almost 40, so those can be coming up anytime soon. But it finally hit me. It was a change in perspective. I've been suffering all this anxiety leading up to these exams because I've been worrying about what could be going wrong without me knowing it. And instead, I can focus on, look, nothing has gotten worse at all in 10 years. So why freak out about it right now? And that's kind of where I'm at now and what I'm trying to do. It's much easier said than done, of course. Definitely hormones, they suck, Teresa. And so what we found today, Janet, thank you for asking. Basically, the doctor said the prescription has changed a little bit from 10 years ago. Again, I've barely worn the glasses, but not enough to warrant getting a new pair of glasses, so I can keep wearing those for distance. Everything is stable. Everything is fine. He said, everything's stable enough. We can just see you again in 1 year instead of 6 months or anything like that. That's it. So this perspective shift, it's challenging because you've got this disease where everything is doom and gloom, and it kind of comes back to, the current situation. Everything is doom and gloom. And so what you get told when you have IIH, we don't know what causes it. You're overweight, so lose some weight. That'll probably take care of it. So that's usually what it is, right? Yeah, just lose some weight. Okay, I'm not even going to go into all the aspects of that are problematic for all my IIH friends out there. They already know. And if you've heard me in person, you know that there's a whole lot involved. But lifestyle changes, right? So just do the best you can. And that's what all this comes down to. You do the best you can to live the best life you can. And worrying about this, it didn't make anything any easier for me. My vision was going to be what it was going to be. I keep living the best life I can, eating the best way I can, doing the best activities I can to keep myself as healthy as I can. And if I go blind, I'm not going to be able to prevent that necessarily. Things happen. Thank you, Tina. I have not lost weight in actuality, but thank you. And so that's the change in perspective. What I'm trying to incorporate now is, I'm trying to go forward looking at these exams not as something to be dreaded, but as another thing to celebrate, as another thing so that every time I can look at this exam and instead of going, oh crap, this is going to suck so much, I hate this, going, yay, let's see if I'm still stable. Or maybe even, hey, did I improve this time? Because early on, I was always amazed when I thought things were bad, things were worse. And it turned out they had been actually gotten better. So that's my change in perspective. And thank you. Thank you for coming in and listening and sharing. And I hope that it's something that you can, take away to everyday life, especially with all the panic and the crazy in the world. Just do the best you can and try not to worry about all the shit that you can't do a thing about. So, thank you. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend and be safe and healthy.